We are so excited to talk to you about money in the new year. Are you excited? Have you recovered from Christmas and all the things that go on there, financial, emotional, everything? Are you ready to look at this fresh, clean slate, a new white piece of paper, and say all things are possible? For him, I can have abundance in money. I can have abundance in joy in relationships. I can have abundance in prosperity and physical and emotional. I can have all of those things. Today, we're going to focus on that money mindset. That the way we start, that phrase that says, start as you mean to go on. I think it was established, was it Queen Victoria? I don't know. Somebody put it in the comments. That start as we mean to go on. How do you want to start doing your money for this coming year? And how do you want to feel come December? How do you want to feel about the money, the finances, and what you've done with it, the abundance you've created with him, and how you've been able to use it for good? So I invite you to consider that as we talk about this today. We have, as always, we have our other mindset money mentors. We have Amanda and Rachel, and Amy will come on. There's a little bit of a technical difficulty, so we'll just keep rolling with it. And I love that Rachel, you guys, is literally in this small little white box of a room. She's sitting on top of a box. Like, this is how we roll, so that you don't think we're too highbrow. Anyway, welcome to everybody. So, thoughts and tips for starting off that fresh new year. I've already had a conversation with my daughters about money for the new year, what they need, what's the goals they have, what's the dreams they want to accomplish, and then reverse engineering, working it backwards and saying, what will that take? And I'll just kick off for a second. It's so funny. Remember just a couple of tips when you're having financial conversations with your children, especially older children, right? So maybe older teen or maybe adult children. One, have a yummy treat at the ready. Okay, this is talking finances. So have their favorite treat. I made her favorite fruit crisp, and she was so happy with stevia because she doesn't like to eat sugar. So have something at the ready that helps them feel that it's going to have a positive ending. Two, get them specific about what it is that they want to accomplish or become or experience for the year. Is it internships? Do they want to travel? Do they want to get their degree finished? Is it schooling? She wants to do schooling and getting training. And so we worked backwards of how much it would be and then talked about options. And I kept it in that positive way. Hey, what kind of financial aid? What kind of scholarships? What kind of support can you get? What kind of sponsorship? A part that I'm going to play in it, what she's going to need to do, what kind of skills she'll need. Of course, before she started sinking in her chair, I was like, okay, maybe we'll do a two-part conversation about the potential of moving out. But the beautiful thing is that every time we went down the notes and the numbers, and we took the notes and we did all the things, I kept emphasizing the doability. People have done this, hundreds of thousands, millions of people have done this before you, and millions will do it after you, so you can do it too. So I so encourage you to get specific with them about what they want and need to do, and then make that game plan and work that plan, and then keep the positivity of, you can totally do this, and then encourage them to consider what they have accomplished before. What is it that they've been able to do before and been successful in? Well, you tried out for this and you were successful. You wanted to get the car, and we have a family car, and you've been able to successfully do the gas and do this and do that. What have they already successfully accomplished and become? And remind them of that and relate that to the goal that they're going to achieve now. So that was just a little kickoff, quick thought about that. And she has recovered. After that, I have to laugh because she went out of the room for a minute, and then she came back in and she thanked me for everything. And then she said, I think I need a self-care night. And then she had to have 2 hours of self-care. So, just know it's a touchy subject for some. So they haven't quite gotten to that abundance mentality yet. So I would love to have somebody else take it away. Amy, did you want to have some thoughts that you want to share about money in the new year? Oh, need you unmute. Sorry.
Sorry, I don't know why my computer link is not working. So I have to jump on my phone. So I'm like this big and I have to look down. I could not get it to work on my computer. So I apologize.
It's totally fine.
So for money in the new year, we sat down with our kids. I don't know. We sat down with our kids. I have a 10-year-old and an 8-year-old, and we kind of went through a lot, not just money. I'm sure everyone did, kind of similar things where you're doing, we had spiritual goals, we had family goals, we had money goals. And I think for sure when you're talking about kids and probably even yourselves, it's always good to start kind of at the end. And I think that kind of goes back to where we had talked before about, kind of really knowing what you want out of life and your financial goals. So if you kind of start at the end and then work your way backwards. So with my 8-year-old, he wanted to earn, like $1,000 over the year. And so we had to work backwards from that, right? So we had to say, okay, each month it's going to be this much, which means each week it's going to be this much, which means each day you're going to have to earn this much more. And it ends up being like $4 or something, because he doesn't want to work on the weekends or whatever, So, so kind of just working backwards, I think, is helpful. So once you guys have set your goals, hopefully everybody set goals for the year. And then just kind of working backwards to get clarity on how those things can come into real life for people is super helpful. I do want to give like a really quick update, just as far as real estate goes in Utah, if people are here, you know what I mean? Real estate has been certainly still transacting. Interest rates have kind of been up and down, like I'm sure everyone knows, but I actually had a couple of people recently that have been able to lock below 5%. So I had a guy that locked yesterday at 5.5%, which is pretty insane for an investment loan right now. And that's due to the fact that so price points are not coming down a ton. They haven't come down a ton, but we have been able to negotiate, between like 3 and 7-ish% is kind of where stuff has been falling, depending on the price range for negotiations. And so instead of using that as a purchase price reduction, what we've started doing is using that towards buying down people's rates. And so that you're not paying those high rates for the, entirety of the loan. That would totally depend on how long you're going to hold the property. But when you're talking about investments and investing in real estate, you're going to want to hold those usually for at least 10 years. And so just to get a 5.5% interest rate, just yesterday, we were thinking he was going to have to lock at 5.75. And then rates dropped a little bit today. And so he's able to lock at like 5.5, which just gives us a lot more of a buffer on the property that we went under contract on.
Amy, let me interrupt for a second. So just so people understand, what is the difference between 5.75 and 5.5? What is the impact of that?
Oh man, the impact on that's probably $75 a month, $50 to $75 a month, depending on how much money you're bringing down. So that's all going to depend on like the ending mortgage, that you're going to continue to carry. And it's really related to, so he's going to bring 30% down, and everybody, kind of has to decide where they're comfortable. But between, 50, a quarter of a point is usually at least $50 a month, just depending on the amount of like the loan that you're actually going to carry on that property. So when you're talking about properties, I know that doesn't seem like a lot, but it is a lot. It can really be, it can really make a big difference.
The life of the loan. Yeah.
Awesome. So
beautiful. Thank you for giving that update and that snapshot. I love that. And that's so helpful for right now, because it has seemed so volatile and people kind of moving away with saying, I can't even touch this. And to hear that great news, that's awesome. Thank you. Okay, we're going to hit Amanda and Rachel for any thoughts on money for the new year. Any thoughts on vision or actually working the plan?
Yes, I love, Amy, hearing about the way that you and your husband did this with your littles. I love that. And I'm going to talk about doing it with our adult children, because that's the stage of life that I'm in. And so I sit down with each of my kids and did the same thing. However, we picked 2 words, and I talked to them about being intentional about their money and just making sure that everything they were doing was intentional. And then they stayed laser focused on it. And I feel like the reason for those 2 words is just the stage of where we're at, right, in our world and our economy right now. And 2 things that can really offset your goal is fear and greed, right? When all of a sudden we are coming from a place of fear, like, oh my word, there's not going to be enough eggs. So I've got to run out and I've got to buy as many eggs as I can buy, right? And then when I've got to keep all these eggs to myself because I might need them, right? And we don't want to get in that space. That makes us lose focus of our why we are being intentional in the first place. So I had my kids sit down with their goal. They wrote their goal out, and then why is that important? And it was funny to see in this stage where you have adult children, you shift from really helping them learn how to set goals to really this, okay, that's your goal. Okay, how can I support you in that goal, right? Because it's this shift and you have to do it. And all of a sudden they have their agency and you have to honor and support that. So I had one of my kiddos who said, Mom, this is too much. I just need this simple. So we sat down and we did 3 things, right? So he said, okay, I'm going to get my paycheck and I'm going to do this first. And I'm going to do this second. I'm going to do this third. And that's all I can think about. And I'm like, okay, then why is that important? So we went back to that intentional piece. Why are these the 3 things that you picked? Why are these 3 things so important? And how are you going to stay focused on these 3 things when you go to the store and you see this, this frenzy or this, oh my word, everything's going up so much and you need to do this. And how do you not get swept into that and instead stay focused and sure and trust that the system you are putting in place will work? Because just as Connie said, it's worked before. It's going to continue to work after. It's just whether or not you want to be part of that.
I love that. So good. And I love that you brought up eggs. If you go on Dave Ramsey on his Instagram, have you seen his post? It's a older couple sitting together at a restaurant table, but she says, take me somewhere expensive. And you can see racks of eggs behind them. And another one where there's these aristocrats and it says, people who have chickens, how they're responding. And these aristocrats are standing like this, like, it's so good. Who knew, right? I'm like, okay, looking up substitutes for eggs. Like, what can we use as a binding agent, just in case we get into a pickle. So I love that. And I love the reminder. It's the same thing with COVID and the toilet paper. Like, you'd see a paper with all these things in carts of toilet paper. And I'm thinking that's the mentality right there. So I love that you bring that up, of that intentionality. So important. And one last thought, I was talking to a gal the other day. She is very wealthy and they used to have $4 in their checking account. And we were talking about that. She said, it's interesting now that I have the means, I've noticed that I kind of went through this. Oh, we can do this. We can, we can have whatever. I mean, they really, really can do whatever they want. But she said that I also kind of balanced out to, okay, do I really love this? Do I really want this? Do I really need this? And no, I don't. So I'm not going to. And I love what we've talked about before, of when we're intentional, when there's a place for money, then we know we make better decisions because we know there's already a space assigned for that money. So we're not even thinking about how else to spend whatever it looks like discretionary funds. Love. Rachel, do you have any thoughts on that or anything new?
Yeah, no, I love what both Amy and Amanda have talked about. And Amanda, when I'm thinking about your son, that's like, I need simple. Like, so many times I think it's so important that we, we've talked about this before too, but don't overload. And so I love that you listened to him and that he was able to say like, hey mom, like I need this, I need a couple notches down. So I think that's so important. I just the past few weeks, obviously been talking to my kids as well. And one of them has just moved back with her husband to school. And it's interesting kind of counseling a child that has a spouse. And so it's like, you're even more removed, right? And so it's like this gentle balance of like giving advice, but then also like just making sure that you're not overstepping. But it was an interesting time because this child had gone to like a dog park, and they met some new friends, and then they went out and had like dinner and games, and they went to this couple's house. And it was like, oh my gosh, they have so much money and they have this and that, and they're our same age. And how is that possible? And it was interesting to see like the mentality of like, them getting it in their head, like, well, why don't we have that? And how are we going to get that? And taking those steps back that like, hey, you have your goals, where you're at, it's totally fine. And I think that's important to remember too, like, do not judge, you have no idea what's going on with someone else's life. We don't know how they're living or if they're, we just don't know anything. And so I think that's really important to make sure that we're not putting ourselves in those positions where we're second guessing ourselves, because I think when you second guess yourself, then all your goals and the things that you're moving forward to quickly come to a halt because you feel like you can't do anything.
So good. That comparison truly is the thief of joy. And knowing that you've got those long-term goals that matter more to you. I remember being newly married, and there was a couple in the ward that they actually got into a house. When you're in like those we were in the cinder block kind
Yeah.
of apartment things, and you have that
Yeah.
house envy, and I loved them. But they had magazine subscriptions and they could go out to eat and, like all those things that you're like, oh, someday, right? And then it was astonishing to me. We were not spendy people. So we just saved and saved and then invested and then saved and invested. And it was astonishing to me that I met them years later and they were not in that situation at all. And not wishing any ill will at all. I don't want to come across like that, but it was so surprising to me that all the things that I had heard and that we had practiced, but you do it on faith because you don't know and you sacrifice a lot, but then we were in a better place and it was all worth it. So I love that you bring that up. I also think it's so important when you're talking about with what to say and what not to say. I do think it's important that we as parents offer and say, anytime that you want to know about investing, just so you know, there's a few things that I've learned. I'm not, the I Ching on it, but I've learned a few things. So anytime that you want to talk about it, I'm super happy to. We can go to dinner and I could share some things with you if you want. You can tell me if you want the small drops or a fire hose, whatever you want to do. And again, it's just food for thought, right? But offering that so they can use their ability to choose and the ability to say, Mom, you offered and I didn't take it. And I'm finding now my adult children, they're talking, reaching out to me more than ever before. Point of mind, right? That's top of mind. They're like, I need to know about this and I want to start my own business or I want to do this and things that I'm pulling teeth at family home evening to try to share, right? And now, okay, give me what you got. So timing is huge, but I think offering that is important too. All right, one last thing. If anybody has any other thoughts about this vision for the new year and helping yourself or your kids be able to have that financial vision means, this go from the end to the beginning. What's that phrase? My brain can't work. Start with the end in mind. Okay, I got it. The effects of 7 children are becoming obvious. Anyway, start with the end in mind, reverse engineer, make a plan that works, as Amanda said, that doesn't overwhelm. Some people love to do a spreadsheet and they're all into it. Don't, if it doesn't work. Keep it simple like she did with her son for 3 things that you can focus on, better than nothing. That will still turn the dial. Any other thoughts, ladies, before we leave?
I think I just have one. I would say I really liked what Rachel said too, just about the comparison, how, like you have that thought process, like, oh my gosh, they have so much more than me. But like, is that what you set for your goals? Do you know what I mean? Like, is that really like, it's easy to look at someone else's life, Connie, like you were saying, and say, oh, they have all this stuff, but you don't know how they're living and you don't know what their goals are. And so I think just refocusing on your own life and making sure that you are centered in what you've set for your goals. And if those are not, like, sometimes that comparison is good because you can say, oh, that's actually maybe what I want. Like that looks like maybe what I want, but then like, how do I get that in my life? Instead of comparing like just apples to oranges, you could say, oh, I want that. What does it take to get that? You know what I mean? And so using that comparison to just really focus on what you want instead of like that jealousy, like, why do they have that and I don't? Just like, is that what I really want in my life? And if it is, how do I incorporate that? I think that the comparison can be helpful, but it also can be seriously a thief of joy. But I think if we really look at it and make sure that that's actually something that we want, we could set goals and meet those goals. So
I love it. And I would even build on that. I remember one of my friends years ago when half marathons were super big. You remember that? Anyway, and she was like out there running and then everybody in her neighborhood was running a half marathon. So she was running a half marathon. And one day she was like, I don't even like this. Why am I doing this? So she's it. And I love that you bring up that point. Is that even what we want? Do I even want magazine subscriptions, back in the day? But I love to, if we can build on that, then I would even ask them if somebody is successfully doing the thing that you are seeing, going, wait, I didn't know that was even a possibility.
Right.
And asking them. I just went to NSA last night, National Speaking Association, and one of the speakers, she's one of the top 30 speakers in the world. And she went to do this speaking assignment 3 days. She was near the end and she was going in for her rehearsal. And she noticed that they provided this backdrop that had this cool ability to do any slide or any background they wanted that could go in sort of coordination with what they were doing. Long story short, it's like a really cool, expensive thing that you can do. And no one knew and no one took advantage of it. So she was in there and she started playing around and did this cool thing with it that just knocked the socks off of her audience. Well, she was doing that in the rehearsal. And the guy after her that was going to be the very last, or second to last, he was like, oh, I didn't know you could do that. Can you teach me? Well, she's busy, right? And she's got her own things to do. And guess what she did? She taught him. She sat right there, did the overlay for him, did everything for him because he asked. So I think that's a beautiful thing that you bring up that we can springboard. This year, I invite you to ask, learn, practice, do those things for money and make money your friend. Make it the thing that it becomes a tool. It's not one of those gadgets in your kitchen drawer that you're like, what does that do? I don't even know because I haven't used it in 10 years.
Oh, I love it.
This is what I can do. This is how I can use this. This is what I can learn about it. And this is how I can make it, my friend, make it create abundance. So thank you, ladies, for being with us today. You beautiful money mindset mentors. Put any questions you have below, comment below. We'd love to hear them and we will answer them. We love that you are responding so beautifully to this podcast, and we feel like we are helping you to move forward on those money mindset goals for you. So let us know how we can keep helping you do it in this beautiful new year. Thank you, everybody. Mwah.